Hi, Teletrim people. Thanks for turning up to the live stream. Give me a minute just to get about 30 seconds to get our live buffer going. There we go. All right, now we're cooking. Give me a second. Problem exists between user and keyboard. All right. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Gary Batman, Dr. B, Dr. Gary, Dr. G, whatever you want to call me. I talk about everything related to your health and your well-being, particularly weight loss, because that's an area when I was doing GP that there were a lot of questions about. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, come and join me every day at 5 p.m., which is Dr. Speak for 510, and join the live stream to ask some questions. All right. Good. Today we've got an interesting, just a separate little topic. Today I wanted to talk about fruit and weight loss and clear up some misunderstandings around that area. You've probably heard people say things like, fruit has too much sugar, or fruit causes weight gain. And because of that, it can make people a bit confused or even scared to eat fruit, especially when you're trying to lose weight, because we know losing weight's hard enough. It's a long-term problem. So today I want to explain what the research actually says and how fruit can fit into a weight loss diet in simple, practical ways with the science background, the science basis, okay? The article we're talking about today is a German article that talked about fructose. We'll post up a link. I think I might have already posted up a link. But it all kind of stems from that back to what we keep talking about over and over is, from a macro perspective, calories in, calories out. But as we've been talking about, one of the most important ideas that we've discovered of late is that weight loss also includes calorie quality, not just calorie quantity, okay? So it's important not to put a whole bunch in, but also what you're putting in needs to be above board. It needs to be good quality because the bad stuff we know leads to visceral fat and other stuff. So I guess for an example, we want to not have restrictions, or more or less, like we want to eat protein to help protect our muscle because we don't want to, restrict our calories and have our body break down our muscle when we're trying to lose fat. So it's not about eating less overall. It's about eating sort of the right stuff in the right amounts. Okay, and that's going to play in with this fructose as well. So when it comes to the research article, basically the article was saying high fructose is linked to weight gain when it pushes you over your calorie needs. We go, well, that makes sense. Fructose is one of the sugars. I'll talk about that in a sec. Of course, if you're eating more, why wouldn't you gain, more weight? But this important part about pushing you over your caloric needs, your calorie needs, this is important because what it's saying is it's not necessarily the fructose. It's when fructose is used to replace other carbohydrates or other sugars without increasing you above your calories. Weight gain's not necessarily seen because it's okay. Now, a lot of you are like, fructose, what the hell is fructose? Essentially there's different sweeteners, there's different sugars in the body. So, we have glucose, which is what we know our muscles and our body uses, brain uses everything, and that's essentially a nice little carbon ring, 6 carbon ring. And we have fructose, which is a nice 5 carbon ring. So those are 2 sugars. Fructoses are commonly found in fruits. Glucose is found in our body, muscles, everything. Sucrose, when you think table sugar, what's table sugar? That's sucrose, so that's 1 fructose molecule and 1 glucose molecule, and our body breaks that down. Now, why kind of focus on this fructose? Well, I guess one of the big things is that glucose is what we, animals, but what we use in our body is the energy source. So our muscles use it, our fat uses it, our brain uses it, everything uses it as fuel, where fructose, our bodies can't use straight up. So we can't just go, oh, take some fructose, it's going to go straight into my muscle. No, it has to be broken down predominantly by the liver to be a useful fuel. And so that's an important distinguishing factor, because a lot of things that we eat are fructoses or sucroses. So I think a lot of misunderstanding around fructose, especially what they try to elaborate in the article, is that they tried to narrow down sort of fructose as anything that's sort of free sugars. So that's the things that you're going to see added in. So you're going to see that as like fruit juice that's added to fruit, fruit concentrates added to fruit. If you're adding sugar to fruit, or fruit sugars, or other free sugars that they talked about in the article, were things like honey, or even a blended up piece of fruit added back in. You're like, what? Why is this? Or even syrups. So it's not talking specifically about, or it mentions that it's not the whole fruit that's the problem. It's when you add things. I mean, how many people have taken watermelon and put it in the blender to blend it up to make a nice watermelon smoothie, and it never tastes the same as Boost juice? You're like, what? And that's because that's just the whole fruit with its own natural sugars, the natural fructose, the level that it has. What you get when you buy something, at the store, like a smoothie, one, it's been blended up probably even worse than yours, so that breaks down some of the fibers, makes the sugars easier for your body to access. So again, kind of bumps the sugar level up a bit. But also they add a lot of things. They add, if you notice on, say, a Boost, they add apple juice, and they add other juices. I mean, we don't even get into the sorbet or the whatever that they're adding, or the yogurt. But they're adding those fruit juices to boost the sweetness so that it feels better, it tastes better. It's more rewarding to your brain. So again, why this difference? Well, whole fruit behaves differently. It's got fiber, it's got water. You have to chew it. All of this helps slow down your digestion. Body's got to break it down. Helps you control your appetite because you feel a bit more full. Because when you're drinking, say, liquids or these additive syrups, whatever, those just go straight through. Okay. So what do we sort of learn from the article? Well, fruit itself is not the problem, everything in moderation, but that fruit's okay. We know how much fructose is in it. It's going to make us work a little bit to get it out. It's got fiber to help us feel full. So that's not the problem. The problem is with fruit is the total amount of calories and how much fruit fits into your day. Okay. So it's not necessarily the fructose. It's, it's good to have fruit, 2 suggested pieces of fruit. But it's how much extra above what you need, what your sort of, not calories in, calories out, but your recommended caloric allowance for your weight is, okay? So if you eat fruit after you have a huge meal that's already used up all your calories for the day, then you're adding extra calories, so that fruit's going to be bad. It's going to be the culprit. It's going to be add to your weight gain. Which the same is true of lollies, sugar, sweets, desserts, anything on top of a big meal that's used up your calories is just going to go to weight gain. And a lot of times that's just going to be without, those calories aren't going to make you feel full. They're just going to add to make you feel more full. So a lot of the negative effects that we associate with, eating fruit and eating whatever, is blamed on fructose. But it's really the fact that we've added it on top of something we've already eaten a lot of, or, it's the excess calories, not the actual food or fruit itself. So fruit's not the villain in this story. Take it from Batman. Fruit's not the villain. It's calorie balance and the context of where you eat your fruit that matter a lot. Okay? So I guess a practical tip is going to be, should you eat fruit if weight loss is your goal? And the answer is, yeah, fruit plays an important part of our, food pyramid. We need some vitamin C so we don't get the scurvy, So I think what you can do is figure out the timing of where to eat your fruit is what's important. Again, staying within your gross, macro amount of calories for the day, but it's timing. Instead of having a meal and fruit and then extra fruit, maybe we can put our fruit at a different spot. So for example, maybe if we had, you could even have fruit in the morning, like pair it with a protein, have some fruit with a little bit of yogurt. That protein is going to help us feel full. It's going to help slow down our digestion a bit. We just have to remember to keep our portions then, when we're combining, a bit reasonable. So apple slices and Greek yogurt, berries and yogurt. We know Greek yogurt's high protein. That, again, protein is going to help you feel fuller. I guess if we eat our yogurt as yogurt, or have our normal breakfast, eggs, whatever you're eating, fasting, if we eat the snack in between, so maybe we go, well, I know that this orange is 100 calories. Maybe I won't have it at breakfast. Maybe I'll have it at morning tea. So we can have our snack between meals. So rather than having an orange and yogurt at breakfast, or an orange and an apple at breakfast, and then an orange or an apple at morning tea, we've kind of separated that. So we've got, not extra calories, we've got fruit. So this way, their fruit can replace other snacks, which oftentimes might be something unhealthy, like a chocolate bar or way too many almonds. I'm guilty. So let that fruit replace other snacks rather than, take the place of just extra daily calories. So I guess, what's the overview for fruit and weight loss? That's it. It has a place. It's just, don't overdo it, and don't do it on top of what you've already done. Okay. I know you've got some questions, so I'll open the floor. You guys start asking some questions, especially if you're watching live, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so somebody's asked, what about fruits? You mentioned fruit smoothies. Are those good for weight loss? Look, I think the thing with fruit smoothies is that while they may not look all that bad, even if you get the healthiest one with the lowest stuff, you can literally consume like 3 or 4 servings of fruit. It's kind of my same thing about juice is, an orange, when you juice an orange, it only makes about this much juice in a glass. If you drink a big glass of orange juice, that's like 4 or 5, 6 oranges. You shouldn't sit and eat and drink, eat 6 oranges back to back to back. And that's it with fruit, with the fruit smoothies, is you can eat them in one sitting and it's liquid. It goes through, you're not feeling that full. An hour later, you're hungry again. I guess an important thing, which I sort of didn't only hinted at with the fruit, is the fact that we have to eat fruit. You've got to chew it. And chewing is one of the signals to the brain that, hey, I'm eating. Food's coming, guys. Like, hold on, just hold on, food's coming. So it can help sort of alleviate some of our hunger and stimulate our fullness, because we've tricked our brain because it knows that we're chewing. Okay. If you're gonna make a smoothie, so it's not to say smoothies are the devil, they're not evil, you just have to be aware of what it is that you're actually putting into your body. So if you're gonna have a smoothie, add some protein, use Greek yogurt, for that high protein. Keep your fruit portions reasonable. Don't add stacks of fruit, maybe 1 to 2 serves, kind of weigh it out. Protein powder, controversial here is going to be, add veggies or greens. Those are really low calorie, high fiber. They're going to add bulk and not many calories. So I think that's a way to get around using fruit smoothies. So they can be useful for weight loss. You just got to be aware of what's going into it, how much is in it, especially calories wise, and go from there. We got another question. Are bananas bad for weight loss because they're high in sugar? Okay. Are bananas bad for weight loss because they're high in sugar? Bananas aren't bad. Okay, they might have more sugar than some berries like strawberries and whatever, but bananas are full of fiber. They're full of potassium. They got lots of minerals, and bananas are quite thick, so they're actually quite filling. again, it's about what we've just talked about. Portion control, don't eat like 3 bananas, especially like my daughter. Use that banana as a between meal snack, okay? If you've had dinner and you're like, oh, I'm just looking for dessert, I'm a bit snacky, but I had a big dinner, don't eat the banana, because that's just going to be extra calories. Medium banana, about 100 calories, okay? So just make sure that you account for it in your daily totals. Again, we're not super strict about our food diaries, but again, as long as we keep sort of a rough in the window, then we know that we can meet our weight loss goals. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Dried fruit. What about dried fruit? So this one's dried fruit. Imagine we just suck the water out of fruit. So we've left behind all the sugar and all the calories. So dried fruit, perfectly good. It's it's shelf stable. It's easy to travel in a bag. It's not going to leak. But if you notice, when you eat dried fruit, here might be an apricot. Here's a dried apricot. Here might be a banana slice. Here's apple. These things shrink. So the problem, grapes to raisins. The problem is that when you have dried fruit, you tend to overeat dried fruit because one, it's dehydrated, so you need to rehydrate it so that you need to make sure you drink plenty of water so that you can feel full again. But also your mind, you got to make sure that you don't let your mind trick you into going, oh well, I only had one small piece of fruit. An apple is this big, an apricot is this big, you only had this much, eat more. Don't fall for that, okay? Like a handful of raisins, if you ate one of those little boxes of raisins, that's like this many grapes. Who eats half a bag of a big bunch of grapes all in one sitting, unless it's a special occasion. So there's that. And again, because of that less water, when you eat them, they're not as filling. You don't have that water helping fill up your belly before it goes. So I think the trick for dried fruit and weight loss is treat dried fruit like a candy, like a lolly. Moderation, small amounts, use it as a treat, not as a common food item. And look, if you do, sometimes it's good to you might put a few raisins in your yogurt or something, maybe cereal, whatever. Just moderation, okay? Or pair it with a protein, nuts, fruit and nuts. You always see those go together because you get that bit of protein, which helps you feel a bit fuller longer. So you might eat less. So like everything, just be aware, and try to mix it up. All right, what else we got? Can I eat unlimited fruit if I'm eating clean? Okay. No. Okay. Clean eating doesn't mean unlimited eating, right? Fruit has calories, and all calories matter for weight loss, okay? We want the good calories, but all calories matter. So even if you're eating healthy foods, again, if your calories are way over it, you're gonna gain weight, especially if you're eating too much. I think if you follow the food pyramid, you're probably looking at 2 to 3 pieces of fruit, or fruit serves per day. And again, timing those right and making sure that we're not shooting over our calorie balance. Okay. All right, let's see. Oh, here we go. I like this one. Is it true that you shouldn't eat fruit after 2 p.m.? No, it's a myth. Your body doesn't have a curfew on fruit, okay? It's not like a teenager. Get back in your room. What matters, again, is your total calorie intake for the day and where that fruit puts you. Does it shoot you above, or does it keep you below? And if you're eating fruit relative to your meals, try to break it up. Try to separate it out, just because that's just something extra for you to eat. I guess one thing you might find is some people, I wouldn't call it sugar sensitive, but some people who do eat fruit later in the day might find that they get a little bit more of an energy spike, and they might have a little bit of trouble sleeping. But That's very few people. Okay, so I don't think it's a reason to avoid it unless you're one of those people and then avoid it. But there shouldn't be a magic cutoff time. I think even one of the tricks for sleep that you see is 2 kiwi fruit like an hour before bed is something that can help people sleep who have trouble sleeping. But again, you got to account for those calories. It's not just, hey, free sleep. So again, I think there's no curfew on fruit. Okay. What about fruit juice? She said it's not great. Fruit juice is one of the bane of my existences. Juice is great, don't get me wrong, but coming from America where you get a big glass of juice, when you really sit down and look at it, you go, man, that's almost like a Big Mac in a glass. And I would rather spend my 500, 800 calories on either a dessert or steak or something, other than that much juice. So I guess also when you juice, a lot of times people get pulp-free juice. So you're removing the fiber, so you're not going to feel hungry. You're basically left with water, concentrated sugar, and an 8-ounce glass of just sugar water. So that's going to be 3 to 4 oranges, no fiber to slow down absorption. You're going to get spikes. Your blood sugar is going up. You're going to have a crash later because it's going to burn through quick. And it's liquid. It's just going to go through pretty quick, so you're not going to feel full. Just eat the whole fruit instead, And look, if you can make it through the 4 oranges, you've earned, not calorically earned, but I feel like you've at least put in the effort to earn 4 oranges worth of juice. But you still have to account for the calories. Okay, so just eat the whole fruit. Diabetics. That's a good one. Look, I'm diabetic. No, I'm not diabetic. The patient. The person asked the question is, I'm diabetic. Should I avoid fruit completely? And the answer, diabetes is going to be a special case because, again, you don't want highs, but you got to eat enough so you don't get lows. You want to be in that perfect range. So you shouldn't avoid fruit completely, but like with the diet, you have to be strategic about it, okay? Maybe mix it with the protein or pair it with the protein so it slows the absorption so you don't get a really high spike and need to go take some insulin and then have a low. Or choose lower glycemic, lower sugar fruits like apples and pears over things like watermelon or pineapple, which have really high sugars. And then, again, keep your portions sensible. So, 1 serve, because then, diabetics are the best at calculating how many carbs, how much sugar, whatever, how many units. So keep it to 1 serve so you know exactly what you're putting in and how much insulin or how much whatever you might need later. And worst case, especially if you have diabetes, talk to your doctor, talk to a dietitian about what works for your specific situation. Okay? Okay, so fruit on different diets. So can I eat fruit on keto? It depends. If you're going strict keto, which is about 20 to 50 grams of carbs per day, then most fruits are going to be too high in carbs. That sugar counts as the carb. It's going to be just way up there. So it's going to be a bit out of bounds. You'll see some modified keto diets, which include a small amount of berries, because they tend to have a little bit, they're smaller, less portions, but you have a smaller amount of berry to eat. There's a little bit higher fiber, so you can kind of get away with some raspberries or strawberries, but a small amount, like a quarter cup. Okay, so just a quarter cup. If you're doing really strict keto, you'll probably need to skip fruit and get all your vitamin needs and nutrients from low carb vegetables instead. Okay. This one personifies my children, this question. What if I'm craving fruit late at night? Should I eat it or resist it? Look, if it depends. Okay. If you're genuinely hungry and you haven't hit your calorie limit, a small piece of fruit is okay. Okay. It's way better than hitting the chips or hitting the cookies. But if you're craving fruit or something late at night because you're emotionally eating, try drinking some water first. Try filling yourself up, making yourself feel full, waiting 10 minutes. And then, if you're still hungry, maybe try going for something with a bit of protein in it, a little bit of fat, and that will keep you satisfied. So like nuts or yogurt. And if you want that fruit craving, just add a few little berries to it. And that should be, I think that might do the trick. Don't eat 3 bananas. Okay. What? Okay. So I guess now we're getting to the nitty gritty. What's the best fruit to eat for weight loss? Okay, I think the best fruit for weight loss generally is going to be things that have the highest amount of fiber and the highest amount of water, lowest amount of sugar content. So you're looking at berries, so strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries. They're low in sugar, high fiber. They've got all the antioxidants, they're the blue stuff, lots of water. So they're pretty filling. And you can eat quite a few before you kind of reach your little limit. Apples and pears are great because they're lots of chewing. They're full of fiber, helps keep you full. Watermelon's good because it's got lots of water content. Like, just cut one and watch how much gets on the cutting board. And so that watermelon's relatively low calorie. I think maybe a cup of watermelon's 100 calories. I'll have to check that. But again, it's a fair amount. So I think, yeah, there's good fruits. Probably not too much dried fruit. But yeah, it's out there. Okay. So I guess, thank you for the questions, everyone. If we got any more, pop them in. I'll keep answering after. I think sort of, how do we bring it all together? I think the big thing is that fruits are nutrient dense, right? So they give us fiber, they give us vitamins, they give us antioxidants, and they belong in a healthy diet. The key for weight loss is being intentional about your timing, the portions, and your actual calorie intake. So, if you're at your limit, don't go over. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I hope if this was helpful, drop me a comment. Tell me what topic you want me to cover next. Otherwise, I'll keep finding some articles. Don't forget to join me tomorrow at 5 p.m., which is Dr. Speak for about 5:10. We never run out of time for another live stream. All right. Take care.